Good morning. One particularly memorable story I have from when I was in Sunday school in the 80s was a cold spring Sunday around Easter. At my childhood church, children attended worship with their families in the sanctuary until dismissal, when they walked with their friends down the long, giggly corridor to their Sunday school classrooms. We, the children, giggled, of course, because we were alone, but us third graders were especially excited, anticipating what our teacher, Mrs. Schweers, would have in store. Mrs. Schweers, in hindsight, was what I could best describe as an enthusiastic believer. She had these eyes, full and animated, almost cartoon-like, as she taught us with her own special brand of wacky charm and dedication. Each week, she led us through Bible stories, some more ordinary, some full of the supernatural, all in her festive, inspired way. Now, despite Mrs. Schweers' exuberance, I was finding Sunday school at this point in my 9-year-old life entertaining at best. Even with a clear understanding that this was the tradition of faith which I was being raised, I found the Bible stories puzzling, strange, and really old. It was hard to see how any of this applied to me and belonged in my life. So as we rounded the corner to our classroom on this Sunday morning, there it was. True to form, Mrs. Schweers did not disappoint. A bucket of warm, soapy water, Mrs. Schweers sitting on one chair, and an empty stool placed on the other side of the bucket. Mrs. Schweers told us that she was going to wash our feet, as Jesus did for his disciples, and that yes, us girls would have to take off our Sunday tights and our frilly socks, and the boys would have to roll up their freshly ironed trousers in order to do so. My best friend and I looked at each other and thought, of course, the only thing we could think. Clearly, there is something wrong with Mrs. Schweers. But as she got to work, she explained that Jesus washed his disciples' feet as an act of service. Here he was, the Holy Son of the Creator, serving his friends with practical care, loving them by serving their needs first, loving through service, loving by doing. And there it was, bam. After that initial awkwardness, a tangible, tactile experience that tied the ancient book with my 9-year-old now. Something within me shifted. It is now 35 years later, and I still look back on that day as one of my earliest connections to the living Word of God. Now with my own children, and as a Sunday school teacher, I reflect on Mrs. Schweers and her zest for teaching, how her determination and energy reached out, connecting us with God's words. As I've taught over the past few years at Kenilworth Union, I have seen the impact that so many different kinds of teachers have had by bringing their own special style to the classroom. God's living word reflected through each of us in our own personalities. Some of us bold and spirited, some quiet and gentle, some of us richly lined with life experience, and some still with youthful curiosity, each with an ability to influence and communicate God's lessons. Teaching Sunday school is an act of love and self-love. We reach out through ourselves into the Word of God to stir the hearts of the children. And by doing so, their authentic, untarnished selves reflect God back into us. The teacher becomes the student, and the happy exchange begins. It can be truly wonderful, God calling each of us to share ourselves for others. So, if you have any inclination to teach, please consider joining us in the 2017-18 teaching team. We want you, we welcome you, we encourage you to take part and be part of a child's story, a story that can and does last a lifetime. Thank you.